at second place, Tearlaments deck profile with Matt. Any shouts you want to give today?
Yeah, that's my friend Aiden, who I split the case with, and who basically helped me get the Tearlaments deck all together. We pulled the entire deck in a single case.
Solid. Anything you like certainly about the deck or anything special?
Nothing amazing. The side deck's a bit strange, but I think that this is a pretty standard list overall.
Well, let's get into it.
Alright. So, running 3 Rhino Heart. This is the best card in the deck. It's just on summon and send a Tearlaments monster from the deck to the grave. Really good. It's 1-card starter, since they all fusion summon from graveyard. And if it's sent to grave by card effect, it can summon itself back from grave, abandon itself and release the field, and then send 1 Tearlaments card from your hand to the grave. That's really good if you're going for rank 4 plays, or if you just need extenders. Then we've got 3 Shiren. This card is basically the main reason why this deck is so hard to beat right now with hand traps in particular, because while hand trapping Rhinoheart is very good, if they have Shiren in any monster, that's literally full combo still. Because Shiren can summon itself from hand and mill 3, all by just sending a monster from hand to grave. And again, like all Tearlaments, it has the effect where if it's sent to the grave by a card effect, it can use itself as fusion material with anything in the hand, on field, or in the graveyard by bottling them to the deck. Very good, and all of them but Rhinoheart have this effect. Then we've got 3 Hovness. This is basically your in-archetype hand trap.
Correct.
When your opponent activates a monster effect on the field, you can chain Hovness to summon it in the mill 3, which can potentially hit one of your Tearlaments to then fusion summon on your opponent's turn.
Win to turn 0, baby.
Basically, it's rare, but it does happen. More often than not, you'll at least be able to get Kikalos, which allows you to make Dragus Tapeli on your opponent's turn. So even if you didn't draw a hand trap per se, this is close enough. And again, it has the fusion effect that all of them do. The only thing I can say about it as well is that it's not level 4, unlike Shiren or Rhinoheart, so it's not useful for rank 3 plays, but it's a dark, so you can use it for a Link 2 that we're playing. Then we've got 3 Merle, probably the weakest one in the deck, but still very, very good. On summon, it allows you to mill 3, and it has the fusion effect. This mill allows you to search for your Shaddolls if you're going for window plays or just looking for extenders. And the fusion effect is just very important to have, because with 3 fusion and summoning effects, you've got a lot of ways to get to whatever you need, really. And then this is where I probably deviate. No, normally people only run 2 of this, but I like running 3. 3 Supreme Seamare. This is on summon. You can send an Aqua type monster from your deck to the grave, and it has another effect to tribute yourself and phase get back Aqua. But that's irrelevant, I've never used that effect. What's actually relevant is that it has the exact same effect basically as Rhinoheart, because all of these are Aquas, except for Rhinoheart. Rhinoheart's a warrior, which is relevant. And this is basically Rhinoheart 4, 5, and 6, but also, because of this, not being Rhinoheart, you can use Rhinoheart's effect to summon itself from grave or summon it off of your fusion monster in order to overlay for Bahamut Shark.
Nice.
Right, and then that's it for the Tearlaments monsters. I would say they're all pretty good so far. I would say that none of them are really the weak link in the deck. Then we've got 2 Swamp King and Squamata and Beast. Swamp King is very good because you can use it to make Millennium Eyes Restrict, but it also searches you Poly, and it's an Aqua, which is relevant because all the Tearlaments just need an Aqua. And it also counts as a name, which is important for Kaleido Heart, because it needs exactly Rhinoheart in order to summon. So you can use King of the Swamp instead of Rhinoheart if you don't have access to it, or you don't want to banish it.
Nice.
And the Shaddol Squamata sends Beast, and Beast draws you a card. These are just pretty standard. If you mill 1, you mill both. Or you at least get Beast in rotation, which gives you a draw and lets you fusion summon into Winda, which is a win condition in and of itself.
OP.
And then for hand traps, we're running 3 Ash. I didn't want to put in any more than Ash, but Ash is just too good right now. The reason why I don't like hand traps though in this deck is just because you're milling so many cards with your fusion monsters and your Merle. So I felt like 3 Ash was perfectly fine. We run a lot of going second as well here. That's it for monsters. For spells, we got 3 of the field spell here from Evil Planet. This card is incredibly good, although unsearchable because it doesn't actually mention Tearlaments in the name. On activation, it searches you a Tearlaments monster. It gives all your fusion and Tearlaments monsters an extra 500 boost to their attack points. And more importantly, when you shuffle away Tearlaments monsters for material for a fusion summon, you can target one card in the field and destroy it, which is incredibly good, and you can trigger that on your opponent's turn a lot. So it's just really good disruption. Overall, amazing card. Then we got some one-offs here. We got Terraforming to search for the field spell. Since this can search Run-a-Heart, any of these cards are one-card starters. Same with Scream Seamer. One instant fusion, also a one-card starter because it can summon off their new fusion monster, Kalos, because it's level 5. One called by because we don't want to get specifically Dimension Shifter or DD Crowed. It's not so big of a deal if they Ash or Valor, but yeah, we definitely want to run this card still. Also, it's Killer in the Mirror Match, it's Killer against Play. It's just kind of the best card right now.
Call by the Grave needs to get hit, for sure.
Then we got Foolish Burial. This card is incredible. Again, one card starter because they all just float from grave. Same reason why you'd run it in Despia. Then we got Rhoda. This card searches Reinhardt, which is full combo, as mentioned before. And that's one of those right there. Those are pretty much how you get into your combos. And then from some additional stuff, we've got 2 Desires, semi-limited right now. Very good card, although it does suck to banish your Shaddolls, which you need, or King of the Swamps. It's still so good, because just any card in hand is basically usable. Because you discard so much and you use so much for material, and you have really good things you can just draw into all the time. I haven't found a bad time to use this card. Then you've got 2 Poly. Again, searchable off of the King, and it's also a good extender if you need it, or a good starter if you really need it.
Have you thought about Fusion Substitute?
No, not yet. I didn't really think of the card at all, honestly, but I've seen it in action. I think I might playtest it. I'm not sure if I'd actually use it, though. It just seems a tiny bit gimmicky. And something I should have mentioned, actually, back in Desires. Desires also has an additional thing. So it banishes 10 for cost, which normally sucks, and I mentioned before that I can get rid of the Shaddolls, but what's actually relevant is that it gets rid of cards in your deck. And you're constantly putting cards back in deck that you actually want to mill, and shuffling it, meaning you're lowering your deck size, meaning you're more likely to actually mill cards you want to hit.
Good point.
And then we are running 3 Dark Ruler No More. I think this is probably the best main deck card right now, honestly. It just hits so much right now. This deck does want to go first, so it's not very useful going first, but going second is incredible. And even going first, you can get outed, and then you need to out a board, and you've got this card on lock. Plus, it's just a dead mill, but honestly speaking, it's not the worst. And it's better than AR Handcuffs, as mentioned before, because it does much more. And then for the final 3 cards, we've got 2 Meta Noise and 1 Soliac. So Meta Noise is a Book of Moon, essentially, in form of a trap card. But what's unique about it is you have to control its Tearlament, but if you do manage to fire this off, you get to send any one Tearlament monster from your deck to the grave, which triggers those effects. And also, if this goes to grave by card effect, it allows you to target and add 1 Tearlament monster in your grave to your hand. Soliac is very similar, although it's a bit different. You need to control its Tearlament, but it wants you to target a monster on the field and negate its effects, and then send 1 monster on the field to the grave. Any monster, and it can also trigger some floating effects of its own. And if this is sent to grave by card effect, it actually searches any 1 Tearlament monster.
Kind of good.
Yep, very good mills, very good things to search, just amazing cards all around. I would never take them out. They have 1 more trap too, Crime. I would actually consider running 1 of it. That was one thing I was thinking of, is this deck has a very hard matchup against stuff like Mystic Mine. So a searchable spell trap negate would be welcome. The problem is you need something in hand, which is a bit harder to come by. Right, that's it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we've got 1 Kaleido Heart. Best
So
card
pretty.
right here. Yep, Secret Rare did pretty well on that. So it needs Rhino Heart and any 2 Aquas. And on Summit, it allows you to shuffle away 1 card on the field, which is incredible removal, and it outs a lot of boss monsters already. But it can also be useful as a combo piece, because if it goes to grave by card effect, you can summon it right back and then send any 1 Tearlaments monster from your deck to your grave, which then triggers those effects. You can actually trigger this on your first turn by using the field spell to pop it, which you can do that on the summon of this monster. So if you want an extra extender to make an additional fusion, you can do that. And also if you have Soliac, you can also do the similar thing, where you can use Soliac to negate, send this to grave, and then it comes right back, and then gets you a Tearlament in grave to start doing those plays for additional disruption.
Kind of cracked.
Then we've got two Kakalos. This is currently their best playmaker. So on summon, it can search anyone's Tearlament card, and it can either add it to hand or send it to grave, which triggers their effects, obviously. But also, if this has two more effects. One, you can target one monster on field, and then summon one Tearlament monster from your hand or graveyard, and then this card goes to the graveyard. But since this went to the grave by card effect, it gets its final effect to just mill 5. Which is incredible or terrible depending on your luck.
Yeah.
But even still, just the first two effects on their own are great, and the potential to get into a beast or a schemata is just incredible. And it's unable off instant fusion, and also it only needs a Tearlament and an Aqua, meaning you can use King of the Swamp at any point for this. Then we've got two Dragons Capelia. This card is just really useful in this deck, mostly just for shuffling away materials. I find that its actual targeted negation is good, but sometimes too weak. But what's relevant is that it uses any fusion and any dark, which all Tearlaments but Rhino Heart are dark, which means that you can put them back in the deck or extra deck for future use. But even still, the targeted negate is really good, and you can make this on your first turn if you know well enough with Havness. Then you've got Winda. Kind of a win condition of itself. It's very good, just one special summon per turn. Can't be destroyed by card effects, so it's even hard to out. And yeah, just an amazing card overall. But I found that I actually only summoned this once today, and honestly speaking, it could have been anything. My opponent really didn't have too much. I feel, and I actually ended up banishing Schemata and Beast off of Desires a lot, or siding out those two cards, because I was going second. And honestly, I never really missed this card. The deck just kind of plays through a lot because they have so many extenders and they can destroy so many cards. And they have one really good monster in here that pushes for game very hard. Then we've got my proxy for Millennium Eyes. This is Thousand Eyes, but it's supposed to be Millennium Eyes. I'm gonna have to try to find one for our regionals coming up next week. So this card is pretty good. Millennium Eyes allows you to literally just negate a monster that activates its effect, so long as it's on the field or in graveyard by equipping. So it's very good against hand traps if you have instant fusion, but even still you can make this because it only uses Relinquish and one effect monster. So it can be King of the Swamp on anything, including its Tearlament. Then we've got Guardian Chimera. This card is...
No explanation needed. Card's crazy.
Actually, I disagree. Honestly, with this deck in particular, it's not amazing just because you summon by monster effect, which means it doesn't trigger the effect. All it gets is a targeting immunity if you have Poly engraved, which granted is engraved most of the time. But I found that I only summoned Chimera once in a mirror match because I drew the Poly and I just needed to break a board.
That's fair.
And even then, it wasn't that amazing. Honestly, the best part about this is its high attack and the fact that you can have it, and it's a fusion monster that's dark. Also, it uses 3 materials, which does trigger a lot of effects at once, which is just pretty good. And then for one last fusion monster-ish, we've got Intense. This is used for a card in the side deck, and nothing else. I don't really think I have to explain this if you know what I'm talking about.
Ultimate Slayer, baby.
Then we've got the extra deck. We've got the best Tearlament monster ever for Xyz monsters. We've got Redoer. Yeah, so Redoer apparently does not detach for cost, but for effect.
That's correct.
So you can make this with any 2 level 4s, be it Shiren and Rhino Heart, or Rhino Heart and Seamare, although you don't do that typically in that case. And what's great is that you can detach and send, like, say, Shiren to the graveyard to trigger its fusion effect. That is literally the only reason you run it. We are running one Zeus as well. I've never made Zeus. I don't see myself ever making it, although I still think I would keep it in here, just because Redoer doesn't really do anything with a Tearlament under it. So just having the ability to turn Redoer into this guy is very nice. You never lock yourself into fusion monsters with this deck as well, so you can make these at any point, which I think is just fantastic. We've also got one Bahamut, one Toad. So Seamare is a water level 4 as well as Rhino Heart. So you can make Bahamut Shark. The thing is, I only ever made this once, and I didn't actually summon Toad off of it. I made it as a beater to get over a Necroz monster, because it was negating my entire board. And you know what? It didn't even matter. That being said, Toad did come up because that same player uses Maximus, and I'm running Intis and Toad, so Toad puts itself back, so it was basically only mill 1, and then Intis pops out 1 card I'm scared of. But I would still run these cards anyway. I think it was just luck that I didn't get into them. You can pretty easily make them, especially if you go Femare first. Femare going first over Reinhardt is actually better for making this card, just because of the fact that, well, you didn't use Reinhardt, so you can get it back later off of either Kikalo summoning it with its effect or Reinhardt summoning it with its own effect. And Toad is just really good right now. It's not as good as in Sprite, but it's still an incredible card. And Omni Negates are rare in this deck. We don't play a lot of Negates. Then 2 more cards. We've got Trouble Sunny and Dark. Trouble Sunny, again, this is for the side deck. I've literally never used it. In fact, I didn't even use it at all off of that side deck card. But Dark was trash as well, actually. Trash. Yeah, so Dark is actually very generic to make, and you can take monsters from grave that are Dark, which is good. And everything here except for Reinhardt is a Dark. It's incredible. Reinhardt and Femare anyway. But I never actually made this card because I find that a lot of the time they just don't have anything in graveyard worth taking, or even don't have anything in graveyard to take. So I never made this card. I never felt like I needed it. I could take it out, but I feel like I still want to keep it just for the versatility. This deck is already just capable of doing so much. If I was to take it out for anything, it'd probably be a second Kaleido Heart, just in case they out the first one somehow, because Kaleido Heart only comes back if it was sent by card effect.
That's fair.
But even then, you're able to shuffle it back with Dragus Tapelia, so really the only case where you would need another Kaleido Heart is if you made 2 Dragus Tapelia. In which case, I might consider a 3rd Dragus Tapelia. Right. So that's the extra. Then for the side, we've got Triple Nibiru, very good right now. It's actually good against Tearlaments, surprisingly enough, because, well, they can make Window. Window lets you get 1 summon off. So you just Nibiru them for that 1 summon.
You can't Nibiru on Winda. It summons 2 monsters.
Yep. Well, even still, it's pretty good against them. I got Nibiru'd quite a few times. Actually, I got Nibiru'd against someone who went first on the same deck in a mirror match, which was fun. And you know what? I just brought the whole board back to the sense for card effects.
That's crazy.
Normally it would matter that it's also a light, but in this case it doesn't. So basically all this is good for is getting through combo boards. The only deck it's bad against is Sprite, but that's Sprite we're talking about here. Then we've got 1 Evil Twin Teskil. This card I actually never use. It's in here for the side deck card in a minute. 1 token collector. You mill so many cards here that you really only need 1. You can mill it against a Sword Soul player who I never played anyway. And yeah, you're off to the races there. And then we got 3 Ultimate Slayer. This is the reason why I'm running so many useless cards. It's because Ultimate Slayer just kind of outs everything.
Card's gorgeous too.
The only thing I can't use this on is Synchros, but the only good Synchro deck right now is Sword Soul in my opinion. And I've got Token Collector for that. And I'm already running a lot of Go and Second stuff, so I felt like this is better. This is an amazing card in the mirror match. It's an amazing card against Link decks. It's good against Xyz decks. It's good against everything. Send Toad, send Intis, send Trouble Sunny, which is what the Evil Twin is for, because then you can send another card on the field to the grave, non-targeting. Just an amazing card overall, and the fact that they can't respond is the cherry on top. Then we've got 3 Super Poly. This card was pretty useful actually. I did enjoy this card. It's very good for not only making monsters to trigger some effects, but also just stopping your opponent. I didn't use it that often, but when I did, it felt great. 3 Cosmic. This is just here for back row stuff and Mystic Mine. Never ran into that today, but I would not take this out. I might consider putting in a Feather Duster either in here or in the main deck, just because this deck does struggle against Mystic Mine so much that, honestly speaking, I feel like we need more outs to that.
Do you ever think of Galaxy Cyclone? It takes a card, it's like a spell card that takes your card from field face down, but if it's in graveyard, you can banish it to a face up spell and trap.
Not bad, no. I feel like Cosmic is just more reliable in this case because you've always got life points to burn with this deck. And then, last card, this might be interesting, it's actually an extra deck card, Garura. So, the reason why I'm running Garura here in the side deck is actually just because of the fact that I'm siding Super Poly. It's only a Super Poly target, meaning it's useless in the main extra deck. And not only that, I had some tight space. Again, I could have probably taken out Dark, but I didn't really want to. And I probably could have taken out the Trouble Sunny, but again, I really didn't want to here. Garura was just pretty freaking good overall, actually, today, because it's just a really good Super Poly target. And also, additionally, sending it off Ultimate Slayer is actually really good if you don't want to send in Tisk, because I ran into an occasion when my opponent only had 1 unaffected card, and that was it. So sending in Tisk would be bad. So I sent this and just got a free draw.
That's really nice. Well, thank you for the deck profile. Is there anything you'd change?
Yeah, like I said, I probably would actually swap the Trouble Sunny and the Garura just because of the fact that Garura is a bit easier to make, and Trouble Sunny is only usable by one card anyway. That's in the side deck here. Admittedly, a poor taste, but this was kind of a last-minute decision. Crime is something I'm heavily considering, and I'm going to try to test that a bit more. Harvey Featherduster, again, pretty good for just outing mass back row, and I might even put in more hate towards back row like Twin Twisters. Although I'm not sure how much I really need to care about that. And you could cut down on the sea mares. I haven't though, because again, it helps with rank 4 plays in particular, because you're not using Rhinoheart. And not using Rhinoheart is just kind of important. Apart from that, I felt the deck was very strong, it performed very well. It was extremely consistent, I never had a bad hand. And it did well going first or second, so...
We're going to see you at the regionals with this deck?
Oh, ideally. This is why I got the deck. I would not wail this hard on a deck otherwise. Again, I pulled all this, but cases aren't exactly cheap. I saved the entire summer to do this.
Well, hope we get first place at the regionals, and we'll see you there.
Thank you.